Hi, this is Brian from StreetSnappers and welcome to this, the first in a series of Q&A videos where you send me your street photography questions and I'll do my best to answer them. So the first question today is from Phil Turnbull, who says, when you go out street shooting, do you go out with one theme in mind or is each session a free-for-all? Well, thanks, Phil. Great question. I tend to go out with more of a theme in mind because I organise my shooting into projects, and you may, if you haven't seen my other video about projects, do have a look. I tend to work in projects, so I'm very focused on what I'm doing and I kind of know what I'm looking for. So it might be, I might go to a specific place to work on a project. It might be dependent on a certain kind of light, a certain time of day, a certain aesthetic. But I do have this project focus. But that's not to say, as I'm walking around and I'm seeing stuff and I'm being observant and I'm walking slowly, as we all should do as street photographers, I'm seeing stuff happening and I'm seeing moments. And I'm seeing these interesting things, these snapshots of life. And yeah, I respond to them. But that's the bonus. It really is, it's the project focus that really works for me. Next question is from Ray Harrison, who says, are you concerned about the increasing trend of people who object to having their photo taken in the street? How would you deal with an angry subject? Well, thanks, Ray. Another good question, and it's one that's on a lot of people's lips and kind of related to the previous question from Phil. I think it's too easy to worry about this and to overthink it. I'm not sure that there is an increasing trend of people objecting to have their picture taken, and I think part of it might be in our heads, but having said that, people do from time to time object, and we need to know how to deal with it. And this is something I do go into in quite a bit of detail on my workshops. But my advice is just don't worry about it too much. When people question you and they say, have you just taken my picture? Or why did you just take my picture? They're probably more curious than angry. They want to know, why me? Why did you take my picture? Why am I of interest? I'm just a normal guy going about my daily life. And I don't think people are angry that much. If they are angry, then somehow you just need to diffuse the situation. And I think your first consideration is your personal safety. Do I feel physically threatened in this situation? And if you do, the easiest thing is just to be as nice as you can be and just comply and then just get out of there as quickly as possible. But in my experience, that rarely happens. And I could count on the fingers of one hand the number of times it's happened to me over my career where people are really angry. It just doesn't happen. So I tend to smile at people. I tend to be nice to people on the streets. I'm not one of these street photographers who sets out to be awkward or miserable. And I think if you're nice to people, if you smile, people reciprocate. And a smile diffuses a situation. And you'll find that most people are actually quite friendly out there. But we've got to have our own way of dealing with this. The question is usually, why did you take my picture? And you've just got to know how to deal with it. And you deal with it in a way that works best for you. What I would normally do in that situation, I would smile, I would say thank you, and I'd walk off. Thanks. Turn away and walk. That normally gets you out of the situation. So you've been quite warm, you've smiled, you've acknowledged them, you've kind of said, yes, I took the picture. And 9 times out of 10, that works and you're out of there. But that 1 time out of 10, somebody will come back to you and they'll say, no, hang on a minute. I just asked you, why did you take my picture? And then you need your second level of response, maybe almost a scripted response. So, and you work out what works for you. So I'd say something like typically, well, actually, I was using, it's a wide angle lens and I was taking a picture of a street scene and yeah, you were in it, but it wasn't of you. And that generally does it. you smile, you walk off. Then occasionally you'll get people who say, no, look, I'm not happy with this. I want you to delete it. And that's fine. You deal with that how you want to. I know people who will always delete the image on being told to. I know people who will always resist. You just do what works for you. I don't really have a problem deleting an image if somebody's nice to me. I'll be nice back, and I don't mind deleting an image. Particularly, I shoot to 2 cards, so I have a RAW file on one card and JPEG on the other. So I've always got some kind of backup. But yeah, normally I would consider deleting a picture. That's for sure. I think ultimately, though, what you must do at the end of the day, if you feel threatened, if you feel in danger, just comply, do whatever the person wants and get out of there. No picture is worth losing your camera for or getting beaten up for. So the next question is from Paul Marvin. Post-production and filtering, what is considered acceptable? Well, for me, Paul, great question, by the way. For me, street photography is all about authenticity, and it's very easy to get carried away with post-production. But my view is that every click of that mouse strips away just a little bit of authenticity. So I try and keep it to a minimum. And my rule, which I try to apply all the time, my personal rule, I'm not saying you have to do this, but my rule is that I will do in post-production, I'll do in Photoshop or Lightroom, or Capture One, what I could have done in the darkroom. So that's some very basic adjustments. I'll do some cropping, and that's usually just to straighten or to clip out a bit of distracting background, but I don't do radical cropping because I should have got closer in the first place with the shot. So I'll do cropping, I'll do changes to light and shade, maybe a little bit of dodging and burning, changes to contrast maybe, I might add a little bit of clarity, I might add a little bit of sharpening, but very, very little. Again, I try to stick with what I could have done in the darkroom, and that's my personal red line. I would seriously advise against doing anything wacky like HDR or using filters in post-production. Try to keep the image as it was. The scene is as you saw it. It is all about authenticity. So next question is from Les Telford. What, if anything, wouldn't you photograph? Well, for me, it's an easy one to answer, Les, and I will photograph just about anything except people who are having a tough time in life. So I wouldn't shoot homeless people, for example. I wouldn't shoot people who are clearly having some kind of episode when they're clearly mentally ill or have other kinds of problems. But I think it's fair game to shoot anything else. Question now from Wendy Davis. And Wendy says, what do you do when you feel like you're hitting a brick wall in your photography? I still go out shooting regularly, but it's not clicking. Have my expectations of perfection just risen? And how do I shoot myself out of it? Really interesting question, Wendy. I think that I meet a lot of people who go out shooting randomly and are expecting the moment to happen all around them. Interesting stuff happening. Or just looking for that evasive bit of interesting light, and it's just not happening for them. And I think you need to go out with much more of a focus than that. And if you are waiting for these things to happen and expecting them to happen, you might have a long wait and you will not be that productive as a photographer. And I know people who do this are either they are very happy with having a very low productivity rate, maybe a couple of good keepers a week or a month or even longer, or they will end up with a lot of fairly random, disconnected images that are not particularly strong, but maybe it works for them. But I'm guessing from your question that you do find it a bit frustrating, and you clearly want to have a better hit rate. I think the solution is you have to work in projects, and you need to define one or two clear projects that you can go out and shoot to, so that when you walk out of your door, you know exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for material for your one or two or however many it is projects. So you're very, very focused in what you're doing. And then as this other stuff happens around you, the moment happening over there, that lovely streak of light there that somebody walks through, whatever floats your boat, you can still do that, but you are very focused on the projects, and that will make you more productive. So next question from Chris Carnigan. How do you practice anticipating the moment? What is your process for understanding when something special is about to happen, and how do you go about capturing it? Interesting one, Chris. I think I've become quite good over the years at anticipating the moment, and maybe that's down to practice. But I think you have to be really tuned into to what's going on around you. I think you need to walk slowly, and I walk incredibly slowly, frustratingly slowly, as my wife says. I'm looking all around me. I'm looking what's happening to the side of me, behind me. I'm very curious. So if I hear a door opening, if I hear a creak in the distance, I just want to know what's happening. Who's coming out of that door? What's going on there? If something catches my eye over here, some sudden movement, I'm looking. I want to know what it is. You've got to be really curious and nosy. And sometimes you get these signals. It could be a sound. It could be a movement that will alert you to the fact that a moment is about to happen. I think you also need to be a practiced student of human behaviour, and you need to watch body language. And if you're watching what people are doing and really observing their body language closely, you will start to anticipate. You can read them. You will know that something is about to happen. And maybe some of that is intuitive, it's instinctive, and it's something that develops over time. But just get yourself into the habit of watching people, watching body language. And it will get to the stage where you are starting to predict what is going to happen next. You've also got to be in a high state of readiness. So your camera's got to be switched on, it's got to be in your hand, lens cap off. It's no good having it over your shoulder or in a bag, and you've got to stop fumbling with it and getting it out. It's got to be all set up and ready to go. I'll deal with camera settings in a future video and how I set my camera up for street photography. But the more set up it is, you've got this high state of readiness, and all you've got to do when you have anticipated the moment, you're ready to go and you can react instantly. And then there's the whole issue of hesitation. And you just cannot hesitate. When you have anticipated the moment, you've got to that point where it's just about to happen, or you think something is about to happen. Just be there, ready to press the button, and press the button at that time. Just don't hesitate. Don't think, oh, what'll happen if I take this picture? Just don't overthink it. Press the button. Think about it later. When you've pressed the button, then think about, well, how could I do this differently? How could I do it better? Do I need a different setting? Do I need a different viewpoint, a different camera angle, whatever? But just don't hesitate. Just press the button. Get it. Well, that's it for today. That's the end of our 6 questions. If you'd like to ask a question of your own, please use the comments box below. Stick your question in there, and I'll do my best to include it in a future video. If you like this video, please click like. Please hit the subscribe button to stay tuned in for more videos. If you're interested in a workshop, a street photography workshop, have a look at StreetSnappers.com. Lots of workshops listed throughout 2020. And please follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Thanks again. See you next time.